Casey, you're really in an interesting position given, your position at levels and seeing all the data behind the scenes. Talk about some of the foods that people consider healthy, but they'd be surprised to learn that they cause a huge glucose spike.
Yes, definitely. So something that we've seen that has been fascinating to me amongst our data set is that many of the foods that we consider to be normal breakfast foods are actually blood glucose disasters. And when we look at some of the worst scoring foods in our data set, some of the top 20 or 30 are all cereals. So this is it's so disappointing because a lot of these cereal boxes have the Heart Healthy logo on them, which I think is one of the just biggest unethical marketing shambles that we're seeing in the grocery stores today. For instance, Honey Nut Cheerios has a Heart Healthy logo on it, and we see massive, above 40 milligram per deciliter on average glucose spikes from Honey Nut Cheerios. We also see things like Frosted Flakes, Lucky Charms, regular Cheerios, Raisin Bran, which of course is advertised as healthy. And the reason they put that Heart Healthy logo on the box is because diets, I believe that what it says in really small print underneath is that diets with like 3 grams of fiber is shows that it's better for heart health. And I think that the Honey Nut Cheerios have 1 gram of fiber. And so they're putting this on there. Of course, it also has tons of refined sugar in it, which completely counteracts this benefit. And of course, we can get huge amounts of fiber from other foods. But so cereals is a big one that has just been so obvious. These should just be taken off the shelves. Another set of things we see in breakfast category are pastries, bagels, Pop-Tarts, muffins, croissants. These are all foods that when we look at our data set, we see about a 40 milligram per deciliter or more spike. We do not want to be spiking that high. We want to stick to more like the 10 to 20 milligram per deciliter rise from baseline after a meal. So then we look at breakfast foods that actually score really well in the data set. And these are things like frittata, eggs and avocado, eggs and greens, chia pudding. We actually see this logged a lot, which is called the Fab 4 smoothie. So this is a popularized smoothie recipe by nutritionist Kelly LeVeque. And it basically is a smoothie that has low glycemic fruit, a lot of protein, fiber, and fat, and lots of greens. So these things all have less than 15 milligram per deciliter glucose spike. So this type of population data shows us that there's certain foods that we've normalized that are a disaster for blood sugar, and there's a certain set of foods which are also much more nutrient dense that have much lower glucose spikes. So then we can take this data and present it to the public and say, here are some options that tend to do better across the population. And it's the first time ever, literally ever, that we've had objective data in populations of how food is affecting people's bodies in real time. And so that is power. And what my real hope and one of my missions is that this data and this population awareness of how these foods are in many cases hurting our bodies will cause a grassroots shift to push the nutrition industry and the manufactured food industry to up their game and to have better formulations, so that we're not having this type of response in our bodies, that we can no longer hide behind marketing claims anymore. Because now the actual marketing is really coming from our bodies. What is this doing to me? You don't have to believe a claim on a box anymore. You can actually find out for yourself if it works for you. Another couple examples here. So we see a ton of logs in our data set for protein bars and, different energy or meal replacement bars. And those aisles in the grocery store are always pretty funny because there's 100 options. And it's how do you choose one? And I found myself in those aisles many times, looking at the back and you're just trying to triangulate all the different, does it have seed oils? How much fiber does it have? How much sugar does it have? Is it organic? Is it not organic? And it's oh my God, what do I eat? And so now we've seen that there's actually There's some bars that spike glucose through the roof, and there's some that have virtually no glucose response. So you can actually imagine going to that aisle now with an app that tells you, okay, across a population, this had like a 5 milligram per deciliter spike, and this had a 50 milligram per deciliter spike. I'm going to obviously go with the one with 5 milligrams per deciliter if the ingredients otherwise are also, quite healthy. And so we've seen, for instance, that bars that are marketed as healthy, like Cliff Bar, for instance, has one of the highest glucose spikes of any of these meal replacement power bars on the market. It actually has a higher average glucose spike than a Snickers bar. And so people are thinking they're making that healthy choice because it's got brown paper wrapping and there's a rock climber on the bar, but it's actually just like a candy bar. And then there's other bars that just virtually have no spike at all. And so that's one that I think is really empowering. And the last one I'll mention is could go on and on. There's so many interesting things in the data. One that I find interesting is crackers. Most crackers are made of refined carbs, and they are complete blood sugar bombs and made of white flour. And there's a couple crackers on the market that don't really spike people's blood sugar, like flaxseed crackers by Flackers. I really like Ella's Flats, which are seed crackers. There's Who Kitchen grain-free crackers. And so it's not like you can never have a cracker again if you want to keep your blood sugar stable, but there's these options that you just wouldn't necessarily know are the best options if you didn't have that data. And of course you could, look at the fiber content and all that stuff. But even then, sometimes there's some surprises that happen. And so seeing the large population data can be really, really helpful. So my goal is that someone going to the grocery store just has a whole new level of empowerment in a few years once this type of data is just really, really easily accessible. And in my mind, if the shelves at the grocery store look exactly the same in 20 years, like we will have failed. I'm really hoping that the awareness and the empowerment and the agency that comes from having your own personal biologic data and our response to food really pushes the industry forward and really pulls the rug out from under the really unethical food marketing standards that we have today.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
If you are an American born today, you are on a direct trajectory towards having a blood sugar problem, having metabolic dysfunction, and having insulin resistance. And this will increase